Okay, this is our rough agenda for today. So we have split the session into two sessions. This meetup into two sessions. In session one, we have two technical presentations. First one is using Google App Engine for mobile applications. So the speaker is JD or Junda. Second one is securing your Braille's web app or App Engine. Following this, we have two short presentation. So there is a new conference in Singapore. It used to be called Unconference. This has got rebranded into Ecleon 2010. So we have Sneha Mohan who is going to introduce us to this conference, a short presentation. And also there is a new project called Open Social Graph. They're looking for some volunteers. So they're going to be giving a short presentation as well. So following this, we have the networking break. After that, the second session will continue. In the second session, we again have two presentations. One is a game developer who has used Google App Engine. So they call the game Starfighter. Basically, it's about globally accessible games with Python, Django, and Google App Engine. So when you talk about games, Python, Django, these things don't really rise up to the level. So they're going to change your perceptions about that. And following this, we have a presentation from Singapore Management University, the SMU sub-club under the GTUG. So they're going to talk about Google App Engine 101. And following this, we will have some announcements to make. Okay. So let me just get into a few new things about that's happening under GTUG. First thing is we have a new website, that is SDGTech. So I guess if you have been to our website a couple of months ago, it was based on static web pages and a content management system, not from Google, but we have completely revamped the website using as much Google technologies as possible. So we are going to just give you, I'm just going to give you a few highlights about the website. And we have a new SDG Tech Exco member. His name is Varun Agarwal. Basically, the position is for the president of the SMU sub-club under GTUG. So last year we had this practice about creating sub-clubs in universities, schools, tertiary educational institutions. So the first such sub-club has been formed and they are under now soft launch mode. They are going for a hard launch or official launch in a few months' time. So the club is located in Singapore Management University, and the president of the club is Varun Agarwal. So you can just see that he has nicely done this image by placing himself inside this American $100 bill. So just to say that he's president of the SMU sub club. Okay, so he'll be the last speaker for today. So let's just get going, and I would like to call upon JD to give the first presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored, man, to be standing here to be speaking today. When the GTUG organizers they asked me to share my experience with my experience on FNG, I was actually quite uneasy because I saw in the past presentation there's social work. They were speaking here and I listened to their presentation. Comparing myself to them, I'm actually like using it. I'm nothing compared to them. But I'm still here. And if you look at the title of my presentation, I stress that is how I use Google App Engine for my applications. It's really a personal experience that I want to share with all of you. bit more about myself. My name is Jun Dao, you can call me JD. My full time is working with Hoyo. I'm a mobile lead in this company, Hoyo. And a short developer bio is that I'm a person who codes for the iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, and jQuery. So from that, you can see that actually I'm a mobile developer more than a web developer. Okay, Hoyo is what I'm working on full time. It's a smart app for you to make calls and SMS overseas. Smarter in the way that you actually save costs by using our service. What you see here is two iPhone screenshots that we developed on, but in Hoyo we actually developed on all the major platforms, another 5 of them. But really my purpose here in showing this slide is just to review what I do full time. As I said again, I'm a mobile lead in Hoyo. Okay, I need to review that because for the rest of the presentation today, I'll really be talking about my hobby apps, which are comprised of these that you see. A lot of them are from on the App Store, iPhone App Store. And coming to the topic for today is how I use App Engine for these mobile apps. I've used App Engine for many of the apps, but for today I'll only be focusing on one, which is SG4D. I'm not sure how many of you know that. It was quite a popular app. It was once in the top 100 for like 1 year, but no longer in the top 100. Okay, let's look at the overview of the topics I'll be covering today. I'll be covering what is the problem that I want to solve. I want to develop SG4D and how I come to decisions to use Google's App Engine for my application. And in that, I'll be going to the implementation of SG4D. To be specific, is how to data mine, how to store and retrieve data, how to create an API, and lastly, how to use the API. Okay. So let's go on to the first topic, what I want to develop. It all started with a problem. This is actually, if you can see, this is actually teletext. This is my problem. What happened is that every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday, my parents at 7 p.m. they always switch to teletext. No matter what television program I'm watching, they will just ignore me, switch to teletext, and then stare at the numbers for 5 to 10 minutes. So I become quite frustrated with that. And so when I bought my first iPod Touch, and when the iPhone SDK is out, I know that this is something I can do to solve the problem. I can simply just pass the iPod to my parents and they can browse through that using the app to look at the 4D results instead of fogging up the one television that we have. Okay. So with that, I start to work out on the features that I need to do. So actually it's very simple. SG4D, I just need to get the latest results, latest 4D results, also get some of the yesterday results, past results, and the bonus will be able to analyze the numbers. And so net, this is just I need to do a server client application. And so the question is that, what backend server am I going to use? For the client, I already decided it's going to be work on iPod. Or what is the backend server I need? I've tried a lot of server technology before, and like running little server in school, getting shared web hosts and stuff. But this thing, in case you didn't know, it's not spaghetti. It's actually a data center with very, very messy LAN cables. So in short, my experience with it is actually messy for all the things that I've tried before. Messy in all sorts of ways, like it's hard to deploy, there are downtimes, there are clauses in those web hosting server and stuff. Then came Google App Engine. So App Engine for Java was launched in April 2009, so 1 year ago. When it was launched, I was very excited because I know about it, about App Engine with Python, but I'm not well versed in Python. So when the one for Java is out, I'm very excited. Compared to just now the messy LAN cables, you see this is actually what I call neat. It's very neat Google App Engine. It's scalable. I don't have to worry about how high traffic. It allows you to upload multiple versions. So multiple versions allow you to test during testing you can upload a test version. So it's very friendly. It's very easy to deploy. I've got no problem. Upload is so fast. And this is the most important one. It's free. Why is this important to me? As I said, I'm just building a hobby app. So very much, I'm not going to earn anything from it. And so cost is going to be a major factor. But of course, if you know App Engine, if you do exceed the quota, you do get to pay, but it's still a very good value. Okay, moving on. The first thing that I need to do is to data mine the S3 results. Data mining is actually a very, very common technique, a development task that everyone performs, where you crawl the internet for information that you want. So for myself, I also need to do that. So how to data mine? Fortunately, there's this library called HTML parser. To quote, HTML parser is quoted as a super fast real-time parser for real-time HTML. But don't mind that, actually just means as long as a library works for Google App Engine, I think it's good. So this works, very cool. The second thing you need to use for data mining is a cron job. So App Engine provides this feature where you can set up a cron job. We'll look at these two things in detail now. First piece of code I hope you all can see. I think it's a bit hard to see, but let me just go through the code. I'll be providing these short codes just for reference. Okay, the first thing in data mining, I actually set up a URL fetch where I go to this website, which is actually my website, to get the HTML page. One important thing when you're doing data mining is that you have to set this method, cache control. You must set it to no cache, because by default, Google App Engine is going to be caching, will be fetching some cache results. So you have to set this. Then the second thing is that you have to set up the HTML parser. This is pretty simple. It's actually just two lines called new HTML parser. You pass in the connection, you call parser.pass, and there you get the DOM structure. And with that, you can now actually get the results that you want in the HTML. I'm providing just an example here. Where this example is actually a TD cell with class called constellations with this number 1, 2, 3, 4. So how do you usually get this? How do you get this is by creating this filter, and filter with a tag name filter called TD, with a has attribute filter called class constellation, and then you extract. You call this extract all nodes that match this, and then you will get you have all those constellations, 4D constellations result. Look through the list and you get all the results. That's basically the idea. And just now the second thing I talked about is the cron job from App Engine. Yeah, so this is one sample. You set up this cron entry pointing to a JSP page, let's say called my results, schedule it to every 1 minute, but actually it's not really running every 1 minute because 4D results is only every Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday. So just for reference, every 1 minute. Yeah, this is actually pretty neat again. No longer doing those compact. Okay, after I've mined the results, the next step is how do you store and retrieve all this data on the server. There are actually two standard interfaces that you can use for data store. One is called the Java Data Objects JDO, and the other is the Java Persistent API JPA. So both of these are very well documented on the MNG docs. And I have used JDO. Actually, I have no reason why I use JDO, but I use JDO. Okay, there are some real-world examples that you can get from this link. So because everything has been so well documented, I can't cover everything about data store. I'm just going to briefly go through it again. One code of how I get the data for it. The first part here, first part of the code is actually I try to get it from the main cache. The main cache is not, it's another feature from Google, from ANG. It actually improve your performance. So the gist of the code here is that I search whether the cache contains the latest 4D. If it does, I'll just return that. If not, the second thing that I do is that I'll use JDOQL, the JDO query language, to retrieve the data. And it's done in about this less than 10 lines of code. It's again pretty simple. Create a persistent manager, set up a query to the 4D data Java object. I set the ordering to the draw date and sort it by descending, and then I execute the query. Then I'll return the first result. That is my latest 4D result. It's a very simple example. I'll say that to use JDO is very simple. The tough thing is the pitfall that you encounter when you're using the data store. I'm just going to share a few. I've probably encountered a dozen. Let me just share some. pm.close. pm is the persistent manager. Just now I created in the code you'll see. So you have to call pm.close every time when you want to save or update your Java object. This is actually a very amateur mistake that I make. Okay, this one. You cannot use inequality filters for more than one property. So let's say you have this property called X. This is actually, anyway, the JDO query language, the JDOQL. So if let's say you write something like X more than 0 and Y more than 0, it's actually illegal because X and Y are two different properties. You can't use two different properties with inequalities. And then another restriction is that if you use the inequality filter, then the property must be sorted by that property before all others. If what I said doesn't make sense, right, wait until you implement something like paging and stuff, then you understand. Okay, there are more other things you have to look out for, restrictions on the queries, some of the unsupported features with JDO. Okay, I think I've covered pretty fast. This is the second last thing I'm going to talk about, how to create an API. Okay. I'm using this framework called RESTlet. So it's actually building on the popular REST architecture. And RESTlet is actually, the important thing is that it's compatible with Google MNG. So how I use it? There's some steps. I download the GAE version, set up the RESTlet in web.xml, attach the route, create a server resource, implement this, and return that. Okay, this looks very complicated. Let's just go to the code of how this is being done. Okay, the very first thing I say is that you need to set up the RESTlet. in the web.xml. This is a sample of the web part of the web.xml. Look at the bottom is they have this URL pattern /API/S3. So whenever you go to mydomain.com/API, this is actually accessing the RESTlet application. Okay, the RESTlet application is defined here. They look at how sample of a RESTlet application. The RESTlet application, in simple terms, is that you just need to implement this create root and set up this router. And the router you have to attach a URL path. Here is /4d. And I'll attach it to 4D resource class. So in this way, you go to my domain /API/4D. It's actually accessing this 4D resource. Similarly, let's say if I have another resource called Toto, I'll create a router. I'll call router.attach /Toto resource.class. Okay, so what's this 4D resource class that you're looking at? It's again a very simple thing. 4D resource class extends the server resource. This is still in RESTlet. Okay, and here you'll see a Java notation @get. So this @get means that if you do a HTTP get of again the domain mydomain.com/API/4D, what happens is that the code will comes to here. And what I do here is that I'll return the JSON representation of the latest 4D result. With that, I'll talk about how to return a JSON representation. JSON representation is a popular data format that you can return in. And again, fortunately, there is a compatible library called JSON that it converts Java objects to JSON string and vice versa. Very quickly, we will look at the last piece of code that I have for today. This piece of code is the 4D class that I have. You'll see a lot of all this annotation, Java annotation, add persistent, capable, add persistence. This is for the JDO data store. So by defining this, it will be stored as a Java object. Okay, so in the same Java data class, I created two methods. One is called toJSON, and one is called construct from JSON. So we'll look at one of them, toJSON, how I use the JSON library. Again, it's very simple, just 3 lines of code, and you actually get the JSON string representation. And an example of the JSON string is on the top. You can see that it has draw date, the date, WN1, which is the winning number 1, winning number 2, and so forth. So it all corresponds to the member objects. Okay, that was the last piece of code that I'm going to show. And how I use the API is actually, I leave out a lot of that, because it's simply just doing a HTTP get from the service URL, let's say mydomain.com/API/4D. I will get a JSON string, so I can use a library on the mobile to turn that JSON string to the data object, and I'll simply display it on the mobile client. So this is one of the SG4D app on Android. As you'll see here, this is a very simple app. I display all the results with, you can go to previous, you can refresh. And I've developed this not only on the Android app. Actually, my more popular one would be on the iPhone App Store, SG4D, where I have as much as up to 1986. So basically, I data mine up to 24 years of data and stored it in FNG. And one more thing, if you look at the rightmost, it says you've got new results. This is actually a new feature from my app. It's a push notification. And for those who are iPhone developers, just want to share with you that I have used this library called the Urban Airship. It's a third-party library for sending push to Apple server. So I've used that on Google App Engine and successfully implement push notification. So that's again another happy achievement that I have with App Engine. And actually this is the last slide. I have nothing more for the talk. I hope this short presentation has share something useful for the developers here. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Tunda for the presentation. Any questions for the speaker? Okay, here we go.
Well, I can show. Does Google App Engine support queue, or is based just on cron time-based jobs?
Okay.
Yeah, I've never used task queue, but yes, Google App Engine does have this task queue thing, but it's in beta stage, so I don't dare to try it yet.
Any more questions for the speaker? Going once, twice. Okay, let's thank the speaker one more time. So our next speaker for today is Stephen February. So we'll just take a few minutes for swapping the laptops before we get going to the second speaker.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Everybody? Okay. Right. Okay, I'll speak a little bit louder then. Okay, my name is Stefan February.